Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Welcome to Voice of the Sea.
This time on Voice of the Sea, we're in Hilo on the Big Island of Hawaii, visiting the Mokupapapa Discovery Center, which is the public's gateway to exploring the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands.
We are still connected, even though we don't often see them on maps as a continual island chain archipelago. And Mokupapapa was placed in Hilo after they looked at many different locations around the state to bring an education facility to teach about this area. And after looking at the different islands and logistics and public support, Hilo was chosen as the proper location, and along with our connectivity to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and it being a place of birth. And here we're talking about our oldest islands like Kiri Atoll, where the atoll is nearing its end of life. So it is very relevant in the spectrum of life.
That's beautiful. Can we talk a little bit about the name of the monument and maybe break it down? What does it mean?
Okay. Papahānaumokuākea is, if you break up the word, and being that Hawaiian words have many different meanings, as a whole word, Papahānaumokuākea explains the fullness of the monument. But Papahānaumoku is personified as the earth or earth mother, and the last part of the word, wakea, is personified by the expanse of sky or father figure. And together, Papahānaumokuākea and wakea gave birth, Hanau, to the islands Moku, from the low flat shoals of Kiri Atoll to Mauna Kea. But it is exactly Papahānaumoku, personified as the earth, wakea, personified as expansive sky.
So we have this wonderful connection, and not just by the water and the organisms that live there, but also by the creation of the Hawaiian Islands and Pele, who the goddess of the volcano here on the Big Island.
Yes, and it is really a mirror reflection of where our oldest islands began here at the hot spot and have moved forward as the Pacific Plate moves northwest. It shows the age and the growth, the life cycle of our islands.
As the volunteer coordinator here in Hilo, what is your job?
My job is to recruit and train volunteers, stewards who want to participate in helping others to learn about Papahānaumokuākea Marine National Monument.
And that sounds like a pretty fun job. How did you get interested in doing this?
My job has evolved from being an administrative fiscal assistant. I started in the early days, way back in 2003, when we just opened our facility, and my focus was more administrative. And as the years have gone on, my role has increasingly changed due to demands and changes in where our focus is going. And so an opportunity came up for me to work with people, and that is my strength. So I applied and I got the position, and I'm here still today, 8 years later, bringing on new recruits.
Wow. So you've been here for 8 years. What's your most favorite part of your job?
Oh, there's so many parts. I would have to say working with the public, as well as the new individuals that come in that are passionate about the work that we do and sharing that knowledge. And you just learn so much. Every day is a new opportunity to learn new things. And so that is probably the greatest part of my job, is that I'm continually learning and changing and growing.
And if I wanted to be a volunteer here, what do I have to do to come and work for you?
Well, you would first just inquire, and my other volunteers, most people approach the person at the desk, which is usually a volunteer, And then they would be given either a packet of information on how to become a volunteer with my contact information, or you can also find out more about this on our website, Papahānaumokuākea.gov. And once you call me, I set up a meeting and we do a little interview and see if you are the right person for the fit, as well as this place the right fit for you. So this tank, we have about 61,000 visitors a year, and half of our visitors are repeat visitors, our local visitors, and most of them come here to check out the tank, and there are some visitors that come daily just to sit here and watch the fish and their behaviors. And there are visitors that actually feel this personal connections to these fish and watch their behavior very closely. It's really interesting to listen to all the comments that are made and concerns.
Well, I imagine, I mean, if he's been here for 8 years. This is one of the images that I have just permanently implanted in my mind. I had the opportunity to come to the Discovery Center, and you guys actually hosted a reception for us in this room. And I think I stood here for about 15 minutes looking at it. Can you tell me what's going on?
Yes, this is on Laysan Island, and those are eggs on those carts and crates that they were, I guess you would say, harvesting way back in the early 1900s. And it is one of the reasons why this area became placed under protection from the early days under President Teddy Roosevelt. He was the president who initially laid the first layer of protection for this area, because we were pillaging the islands for the eggs, the feathers from the birds, the guano for fertilizer.
And what is guano?
Guano is bird poo.
And why do people want guano?
For fertilizer. They'll use it to make their gardens beautiful, or what they did in the early days, how they used it for farming. It was just that it was done at such a large scale that it did have a great impact on these islands. And we all know from history that President Teddy Roosevelt loved wildlife and birds, and so he really was our first president was interested in conservation. And so this is a beautiful photo that shows how we just didn't understand the impact that we were having on these islands. We probably thought back then that these islands were so plentiful that we could just keep taking. It was a business. And so it did get to the point that Laysan Island was greatly impacted, to the point that all the vegetation ended up being pretty much eaten by rabbits that were left behind from a business that went under. And so when early scientists went up there in the early 1900s, they saw 3 bird species go extinct, and the other photos that we have in this room sort of show the impact of what happened to the vegetation in that area and how these birds were going hungry. But we have now, with these layers of protection, have helped these islands to be restored to their original state.
And then here's an image of albatrosses as far as you can see.
And you can see that there are so many of them. You could see why maybe people thought, well, there's so many of them, it's the abundance of them is just, it's never ending. And maybe that's why they didn't treasure it as they should. But I am happy to say that one of the largest Laysan albatross populations is up at Midway and in the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands. So they are still happily living up there, and they're abundant in population.
So great white sharks are big, but Megalodon was gigantic. And so one of the things I wanted to know about the Discovery Center, what are your hopes or goals for it as it grows? I mean, you've been here since the beginning, since you guys opened the doors.
That's true. I've seen our programs develop, and sometimes we've developed slowly, but that is a good thing, because then we can look at really take a lot of time to put quality into what we're going to be creating for the public and our public school groups that come through here. So one of our goals is to be actively integrating indigenous knowledge into Western science, and bringing about the cultural components to where children understand that there's a balance, and that we can integrate these two and have a better understanding of indigenous knowledge and Western science, that they do work hand in hand together and actually help one another in perpetuating the culture.
And how do you do that here at the center?
Well, there's in our curriculum that we're working with, we bring in Hawaiian values. So we talk about malama, how to malama the aina, how to malama our ahupua'a, and bringing in Hawaiian terms, and teaching ways of fishing practices that once took place. I'm not a expert in this field. My field is more just bringing the public here and giving them an overview. I actually work more as an assistant in that area, but for our keiki that have never, some of them aren't from here, so they're learning about our culture in Hawaii and the many cultures that are here. It's not actually just one culture.
So Virginia, I'm just so inspired by you as the director here of the volunteers. You didn't grow up being trained either in science or in Hawaiian values, and yet you've taken this center and grown it into this wonderful place that we can all come and experience. What does that feel like?
I thought about that last night. It's inspiring. It's a motivator to know that I wasn't born and raised here, and when I went to school here, we weren't taught what I'm learning now at a much older age. I feel like I'm back in school with my volunteers and with the keiki that come here. We're all learning together, and that is a really nice opportunity for me to be able to continue to grow and watch others grow along with me. So that's what a message that I tell my volunteers. We're learning together. It's continually perpetuating, looking at the past, pulling it forward and applying it to where we are now, and bringing those traditional values back to Malama, our home.
And how does that connect to the Marine National Monument?
I guess for me it would connect because those are our kupuna islands, and when I look at my life's lessons, I have to say that my training began with my kupuna and my parents who taught me these values, and my first moment of touching nature and remembering back to that first moment when nature meant something to me and that there was a voice in it. From the past, that's the connection, is the Kupuna Islands have a rich history, and that history is still alive. It's existing right alongside with what I'm learning today and in this time in life space. So it's all new and yet old.
The University of Hawaii's Sea Grant College program, focused on Hawaii's coasts and its communities through sustainable development, safe seafood supply, sustainable coastal tourism, hazard resilience, and healthy coastal ecosystems. Hawaii's Sea Grant.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG has been providing quality educational programs and services for over 40 years, serving students, teachers, parents, educators, and experts around the world and here in Hawaii. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, improving schools, improving education. CRDG.
Exploring Our Fluid Earth is a dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group, teaching ocean science concepts through the disciplines of physics, chemistry, biology, and ecology. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now available freely online. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.
Turn your love of the ocean into a lifelong career. Join NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as we unlock the secrets in the deep oceans, track rapidly moving storms, model climate trends, protect and preserve our marine resources, and so much more. It's all in a day's work at NOAA. Find a career that makes a world of difference, enriching life through science, service, and stewardship. NOAA.